Check, check, check. Test, test, test.
Let's see here. Bum, 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 bum. Ma-na-na, ma-na-na. Bum, 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 bum. Mm-hmm. Oh, you've got your audio on.
I was like, who is that?
Like, why do I hear me? No. No, we should punish them with my voice, not me. We'll give it a couple more minutes just because it's cold outside. And a train did go through, so. Yeah.
Ran in front of the train.
Did you? We were up here. I mentioned this is the entertaining part of this is I get to watch the people scramble to get ahead of what is likely a 3-car train.
Yeah. I'm sure about that.
Yeah.
I feel like they ought to time those trains for class getting in.
I have a video from like several years ago when it went by, and it was a decent sized one. I took it for my kids because I thought they'd get a kick out of an up close video of a train going by. But not too often it's a full loaded train.
Oh, yeah, those little emojis. It's like a little dot. It's like the candy.
Oh, see, it doesn't do it in my phone.
That's awesome.
It just looks like a
Yeah,
regular old
that's
smiley face. That's not as exciting.
Yeah.
What's Sublime Text 2?
What's that?
Is that Sublime Text?
Oh,
2?
it's a text editor.
Maybe I should check that out.
So on Windows,
Does it do markups too?
it might. I don't use it that much. If you're interested in that, talk to one of our devs. They'll probably give you because they all use Macs. They'll give you probably a way better text editor that handles markup than what I use.
Visual Studio Code?
Yeah,
That's what they would say.
yeah, I don't know. But so I would use Notepad for my Windows, but they don't have a version of that on the Mac side, so I just got Sublime Text because it's lightweight and simple for my purposes.
Yeah, Visual Studio Code is not lightweight or simple.
It does plugins for everything.
Everything.
Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. It's good to see that the stream is starting to pick up a little bit as well. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Matt Goins. I'm the trainer for the WiscWeb team, as well as handling support, communications, and all of the other sort of forward-facing type things. The other people in the room this is Jenna Klinner, who is our product owner. She handles a lot of the administrative and I guess leadership type things for the group. And then at the end there is Phil Jacobson, who is he's our server admin, I guess is how I always refer to him, but he's kind of the one who makes sure that this train, quote unquote, keeps running for us. So, yes. One of several.
Journalist, back end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So this is our February brown bag. We've got, as I said in the email, we have a number of things to touch on. So I'll just kind of launch into that, and then we'll leave some time in there for question and answers. Those of you who are watching on the stream, go ahead and throw your questions into the chat there, and we'll try to answer them as best as we can. Jenna's watching that, so I'll poke her when I see something come up into there while we're talking. So the first topic to touch on is our site launch process. So for those of you who have already launched your sites, you already have a live something.wisc.edu site through WiscWeb. This won't affect you unless you are requesting a new site or building out a new site. But one of the issues that we have run into in the past has been we would ask you up front what your domain preference would be. So When we build a site for you, we give you a something.wiscweb.wisc.edu domain. At the same time, we also ask, what is your live production domain going to be? Now, if you already have an existing site, an existing domain, it usually is pretty easy. You're going to request the same domain that you already have. But there are times we run into new sites being spun up that need a brand new domain. The problem that we run into is when you get to your go live time and we have set up said domain, a number of people change their choice on said launch domain, which creates a delay on your end and our end for actually launching it, because we have to go back through a process of requesting that domain, making sure that all the entries are correct on the server side of things, and then that can be a week to 2 week process for waiting for that. And so it really throws off your desired launch time. It throws off our business process. So how we've changed that is we simply aren't going to ask you what your domain is until you go out and fill out the launch request. And the launch request is on our main site, WiscWeb.wisc.edu. There's a launching section down there. If you click on that, there's a lot of information in here that we hope you are looking at, mainly, checking for accessibility, broken links, and things of that nature, redirects that you might need. But on there is the form. And on the launch request form, that's when we're going to ask you for your domain at that time. And as part of this process, we are putting in that we need a 2 week lead time to launch your site, because we have to work with web hosting, we have to work with whatever other host masters that we have to here on campus to ensure that when we request that domain and when we request that URL, it actually will work on the day you want it to go live. So that's a big change from what we have been doing in the past, but it really is to make this process a lot easier on both of our ends.
Yeah, I think the important thing to note there is, like, in the past we were able to do more like emergency type launches, and that won't be possible in this new setup. So you can just plan accordingly with that 2 weeks notice. That's super helpful for us.
So if I request a site, but I don't tell you what to name it, what do you name it?
So you'll request a site and you'll tell us a name for it, and that's the name that we use to create the WiscWeb site. So limnology.wiscweb.wisc.edu would be what we would name it, and then when you requested your launch, you would tell us it should go to limnology.wisc.edu. We would work with whomever it is that we have to work with here on campus to make sure that that domain is ready, so that when your date comes, 2 weeks from today, it's there and ready. So all we have to do is make a couple of changes internally within our server setup, and it's live then.
So what if I say in the second part, this part, I say, oh, you know what, I said first time limnology, but I want it actually to be CFL.
Well,
it still doesn't matter?
That won't matter. We'll get into that in a second about the whole redirect process that we had set up previously. But essentially, all we need to know is, what does your final desired domain URL need to be? So you might say, you know what, I want limnology, I want the site limnology. We would create limnology.wiscweb, but when you're ready to go live, you go, you know what, we really need it to be cfl.wisc.edu. That's fine to us. Your project will still be limnology.wiscweb.wisc.edu until you go live. Yeah, that's the next part that's coming up in a little bit here about that process. So
we're gonna get ahead of ourselves now.
Well, we always do. So, so that's the site launch process. Again, it really affects just from the standpoint of, we need to make sure that we have a 2 week window. You have to make sure that you give yourselves 2 weeks, and this really affects those of you who are putting out like marketing or business cards or anything of that nature, where you're letting people know what your URL is going to be, yet it won't be live until 2 weeks out from your request date. Go ahead.
Sorry, if you request it but don't want it to go live in 2 weeks.
That's the launch request comes at whatever time you're ready to say it's time. When you request your whatever.wisc website, that exists for however long it takes you to build your site out. We're not going to put a time limit on when you have to go live we do, but we're pretty flexible on, we're pretty lenient, I should say, on what a time frame is for building out a site. But you're the one who dictates when go live is. But we just need a 2-week window for when that time has to happen.
So, well, look at the example, Matt, then of like, if I asked for a site today, we have a still standard, really short window.
Yep.
To be able to start editing and making that site.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that turnaround is very fast. Your site request is pretty fast. Your launch request is 2 weeks.
After a launch request in that 2-week period, is it possible to have a custom 404 for people who try to go to there and it doesn't exist yet? Under construction, basically.
I don't know. I don't.
The new domain?
Right.
No, because
think
it's
so.
actually in the process of being like configured reserved
Yeah.
during
It
that
actually
time.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll end up going to our WiscWeb page not found page because it's
Right.
because the domain.
Not even that.
Oh
not
no,
if it's
it
not
won't even
set
go
up,
there yet.
no.
Okay, so don't even do that now. So it'll just get a page not found, a normal error page. Next up, many plugins are no longer network active. This is something that we have talked about in the past. It's a process that we've been going through since, it started out last summer basically when we started doing our performance sort of review, I guess you would say. One of the things that we started to notice was at times some plugins that we use would load things that you don't need to have loaded, even or especially when you're not even using those plugins. So one of the things that we have done over the past, I'd say 6 months specifically, but it's really picked up steam over the last couple of months, is we've started to identify sites that are using specific plugins. Mainly we're looking at the big three, which is Events Calendar, WP Data Tables, and Gravity Forms. We looked at whether or not your site was actually using those. If you're not, we were network deactivating it, means we're turning it off across the board. If you were, we were going back through and then reactivating it on your site so that it didn't actually, the network deactivation didn't affect you. So everything would still be there for you. So with that being said, if you find that you're interested in using a particular plugin, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a second here, but you have to go out to our customer support form, and plugin activation is one of the options that exists beneath there. And then below we ask you which plugin do you want to have turned on for you. Along that note, just to kind of reiterate, this is a question that I get on a pretty regular basis. Plugins are only accessed by people, I should say, plugins are only edited by people who are of administrator access level. So editors might be able to see, like Events Calendar is the big one. You might see events over on the left, but not be able to actually do anything with the Events Calendar. You must be an administrator to actually create events, create tables, create forms, and edit said values out of those plugins as well. So a lot of times people run into that issue. I know there's concern over making someone an administrator. I'll put that in air quotes. Honestly, the two biggest things that you get out of administrator that you'd have to worry about is just the ability to add or remove people, and then the ability to edit the plugins or to manipulate the plugins. You'd hope that
You
people.
have 2 administrators?
You can have any number of administrators that you want to have, yeah. Yep. But it's just that administrator, that name administrator always throws people off because it insinuates more power than actually there is. The greatest power that you get out of being an administrator is you get to add or remove users from your project. That's primarily the biggest thing. Yeah. So.
And no pay raise included?
No, sorry.
Oh my God, that would.
Does not. We'd become
But I'm a
really
WiscWeb
popular then.
admin.
Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, many plugins are not available. So for those of you who have gone through this process once and you request a new site for a lab or something of that nature, it will be different now because those plugins won't be there immediately when you have this WiscWeb site built for you. You just have to go out to the support form and request it to be turned on. That's it. It's a pretty quick turnaround. So. That being said, also with the support stuff that has been changing, we announced this last year, and then it finally went into place February 3rd-ish, somewhere.
Yeah, it was like the end of January. Or
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah. Our initial support queue is now going through help desk. So a lot of times when you are sending us emails through the cms-support@doit.wis.edu and also via this form, those things are starting to get into a help desk queue. And then the things that they can't answer easily by pointing you towards a knowledge base document or answering it outright, they will then escalate it up to us, Jenna and myself, to have it further answered there. This is just trying to ease some of the daily support load that Jenna and I have to undertake. And honestly, it's just to get some of the really easy questions out of our queue. Then, and quite frankly, the most popular being, how do I add a new user?
So that email that I sent about the gravity form,
Yep.
which is still a problem.
Yep.
The response I got back from them was, we don't know, go to an open lab. And then I sent it to you
Yes.
saying, hey, I'm gonna be at the open lab
Yep.
anyway. You got that anyway, right?
Yeah, we saw it because it gets escalated out. But that's part of our business flow with them is to encourage people who have those types of like, I can't figure this out kind of questions. We've told them to encourage people to come to open labs. Honestly, it's just easier to work face to face and one-on-one rather than trying to bounce back. Like I sent you an email. I thought I figured it out. Obviously, I hadn't figured it out. So now it's just easier to.
Yeah.
We'll go sit and not figure it out together.
But if let's say I wasn't planning on making this one, and
Sure.
we needed to have that thing ready, blah blah blah.
And you'd communicate.
I could have emailed you directly.
Yeah, that's
okay.
directly.
Yeah.
I mean, Kelly, you know me, but like again, this is part of this process is trying to get.
Sit there waiting to hear back.
No. But you could let us know the urgency.
Okay.
Yeah, as part of that communication back and forth with help desk is you could let them know the urgency of this request. If it's a high urgency, it will get kicked up to us. We'll either look at it, I'll call you, or I'll wander on down to the lakefront and sit and work with you on it, depending upon whether or not I can figure it out.
Okay.
So, yeah. A lot of the same stuff will exist moving forward. It's just the initial support requests that come in are hitting help desk first to have them try and answer some of the easier questions as they come in. Next up on the list is I didn't send this one out in the email, and I apologize about that. I didn't realize it until after, because that's when I started actually doing the scheduling out. Another change that's coming with the way that our service is working is I am creating a more standardized open lab schedule. This is in response to a larger conversation that doesn't really have to do with WiscWeb in general. It has to do with the lab that we use for the open labs, B207. We're going through a lot of conversation with that. One of the steps is I'm trying to standardize some of the hours that I use it in there. So that being said, we're going to change the open lab schedules to be a more standardized, and that is going to be, unless otherwise noted, I'll bounce out to March just because that's where it starts. Open labs are going to be Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays 9 to 11, Thursdays 1 to 3. That's an arbitrary choice on my end. I just looked at my calendar and said, you know what, those are times I know I have open on a fairly consistent basis. So I put them down for that. Unless otherwise noted, I should say. Like here, I need to create the event for this day. It's actually going to bounce to the afternoon on this Monday because I have something going on in the morning of that day, so I can't run the open lab that day. Honestly, like I said, it's just trying to get things a little more standardized. One, because of the lab. Two, because of the fact that we're all busy, and me trying to constantly schedule an open lab where I can guarantee that Jenna's available, our developers are available, and the user experience folks are all available at the same time. It's a crapshoot for me, really. And so me standardizing it will hopefully in the future lead to me guaranteeing that I'll have additional people in the room to help when we get an overwhelming amount of people showing up. Because when it's just me, or when it's just me and Jenna, or when it's just me and one developer, and I've got 5 people in the room waiting for help, it gets a bit frustrating for everybody involved, us and you. So doing this will hopefully lead to always having people available to support you. So, and then again, there's conversation with B207 in the future of that lab. So I'm trying to standardize things to make it a little easier for us to have those conversations as well. So, I know that's not going to work for everyone. I apologize. It's just the nature of what I have to do moving forward for making sure that everything will work somewhat consistently for us. I already introduced what the new support form is. Again, we're just using this as a way for us to streamline essentially what your questions are. A lot of times people will email in and say this page isn't working, or I'm trying to get this plugin to do something, and that's basically what they'll say. Instead of this page isn't working, here's the URL and here's what's happening when I try to use it. We're trying to streamline more information out of you, the users, to help help desk and us quickly answer questions or know where and how to start troubleshooting something, as it comes in. So that's, we have all the general information up at the top, and then based on what you choose down here, we have some conditional logic into the form below there to, ask more information of you. So,
do any of those include like an image drop saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing when I load this page, like for the bug issue?
Noted.
Yeah.
We will make said change.
You can
Yeah.
probably do it right now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Live.
We'll refresh later. No, it's a good. That's good feedback. No.
That would minimize the level 1
Yeah.
back and forth
Yeah.
a little bit. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could put a link to a bots site now.
You could, but if we got it directly, it would become a part of the ticket that gets created as well. So that would make one less step for whomever gets the ticket to start working on. Okay, fun thing.
Oh, there is one for bug. Click on bug.
So there's that.
I think it's marked it. Oh, okay.
It's there. Somewhat live.
It's marked as mandatory.
Yeah, I'm changing that. I'm like, I don't know why that's required.
Oh yeah. So next on the list is we had been contacted by Justin Masuga out of Do It Communications, and he asked if we would like to make his icon pack that he works on available to the WiscWeb service and in general the campus as a whole. I was eager about that because we get a question often about, are there site icons out there for you to use, but essentially what has been made available are icons like these for you to use within your site for various reasons. You can get to them via our WiscWeb site under Resources and Campus Resources. It is the second option in there, and I did throw in an image for you to just get a preview of what some of those icons can look like. But they're out there. They're nice. They're nice to use for navigation purposes. Kind of what we have here on our page. Just more visual options for you to take advantage of with your site. That being said, one of the things that one of our devs wanted to caution against is just overuse of them. They are not. The quality of them will vary greatly depending upon the device that's using them and how often you're doing this kind of thing on said device. It might stretch them, they might appear torn in a particular view. So use with caution, but use. And for the love of everything, please, oh please, make sure you're using alt text on any and all images that you're putting on your websites. I love all of you dearly, but I sit next to many of you in open labs, and you just fly right past that alt text field. And
Show the alt text on that for what would a good alt text be
for an icon,
like that?
I usually what I usually do is so this would be launching. So I would basically say launching icon graphic. This
But
gets
you don't
into
want to
the.
describe the graphic.
Not really. I don't particularly think that gets very long.
Yeah.
Computer icon with several arrows pointing away from it.
I think you could, I think that in
This-
general, it's nice to give some descriptors. So it's like, what would you want someone to know about if they couldn't see it? So how would you describe one of these?
I would say
Couldn't see it.
launching icon graphic.
I know.
It's decorative, so that's why we get into this would get into the realm of whether or not it's useful or necessary, I guess would be the right way to say that, because of the fact that it is decorative. I would still put an alt text value on there so that they know that there's an image there that is representing something on the page, but I wouldn't get too elaborate with what I have to actually describe with it. Other images, yes, be very descriptive with them. Make sure that you're actually pointing out that image of skyline of downtown Madison, not image of. You don't need image of. You need just skyline of downtown Madison and the Isthmus. But again, I guess the greater conversation there for me is. Oh, I saw Adam's comment in there, so I wanted to answer. I wanted to see if it was something because Adam would have a perspective on that. The greater part of this conversation is just the fact that I work with so very many of you, either through training, either through support, or in open labs, and far too often I sit next to people and alt tags are quickly ignored as you go through the process. What are alt tags, Matt? Well, let's go in and take a look. When you upload an image to your media library, you can click on said image, and hey, that didn't save for me.
It's a bummer when something like that comes back to bite you.
It does, doesn't it, Kelly?
Yeah, it's only happening.
Saved.
People are watching.
Everybody saw the word. Nobody saw the word saved up there.
So Adam asked if the icons are UMark approved as well.
That's a good question. I guess I'd have to touch base with them.
Well, they're not from UMark, so
They are not from UMark, so they are from Do It Communications.
they're doing communications with Chris.
Yeah.
But I had an interesting conversation, I brought you into that too a few months ago, where you pointed me to Do It. And said, oh, and we use these too sometimes,
Yeah.
some online resource. But so I'm really glad that Justin's group stepped up and created this bundle. And
Justin reached out to me too, so it was nice that he actually reached out to us as a service and just basically said,
here you go.
here, we want to make them. And they're updated somewhat often. I will update the zip file that's sitting out there. I might do it every few weeks or so. Like if I see that, because it's in a box folder, so I will get updates when Justin makes any changes to anything in the box folder. So if I see that he's made like 7 or 8 changes over a 2-week period, I'll rezip it probably and just throw it back up there. But for the most part, I don't anticipate it being more than quarterly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
So with the way you've got it set up, available as a zip to download the whole pack,
Mm-hmm.
that to me encourages the user to download and save locally, and then to just continue using from the local storage.
Yeah.
I wonder if we do expect them to either change or be added to, if having some sort of library where you can search for the specific one you want.
It's a conversation.
Download it on a
Yeah. It is a conversation that has happened many times over the past several months. We jokingly refer to it as a library of things, where we want to put these types of things available in some sort of directory that you can then
Like
pull
a photo
from
library.
within your
Right.
within your site.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. That's all I can say. I don't. From there it comes down to effort and ownership.
Yeah. There's not going to be a notification process like you're using this outdated icon.
No, probably not. No. But I think for the most part, the way that Justin framed it was, he doesn't make, it'll be more of additions rather than specific changes, unless he like sees something that's like really off about an icon. But he's not going to make too many changes, I don't think, to existing ones. I've had it in that folder for about a week now, and I think he's made one change to one so far. So that's that. Again, it's available through resources and campus resources. Just to make use of it, I think it's a neat thing to use within your sites to add a little more visual. Domain changes for launch sites. This one we kind of were hinting at earlier when we were talking about the site launch process changing. When we originally changed over to native domain mapping. I couldn't think of the word. Native domain mapping. Essentially, what happened was, in the past, we would have to do a very complicated process of creating redirects from your whatever.wiscweb.wisc.edu site to your new something.wisc.edu site. It was complicated, it was cumbersome, and at the end of the day, it was starting to break things. So we instead opted to use WordPress's native domain mapping functionality, which essentially, when your site launches, your site ceases being something.wiscweb.wisc.edu and instead becomes your whatever.wisc.edu site. We still had mapping in place for the older versions of sites, some of our original sites that had come in before we made this change. So you could still access your site by going to something.wiscweb.wisc.edu. That's going to be changing eventually. For the most part, it's not going to affect a great number of you because I think you're all used to going to your whatever.wisc.edu sites or logging in via WiscWeb proper. But just be aware of the fact that if your site is live and you have been using something.wiscweb.wisc.edu to get to your live site, that's not going to work in the near future. Was there a date on that article of when we were making that change, Jenna?
I think it's just whenever we could work through the process on all the sites. So
we are in the process of
it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Excuse me. Go ahead.
I'd like to bring up one thing I've seen. I am on an OG site.
Yep.
And linking in my site, a lot of my pages still reference
WiscWeb.
WiscWeb in the media or even some pages. If you dig down on some of my original pages, so is there a way to scrape to say?
I think that's part of the find and replace process that we run.
Yeah.
I guess Scott's listening in. I hope csd.wisc.edu is the site that is being referred to now. So did he have a comment?
He was talking. He commented on the timeline.
Oh, okay.
So he said it's projected for the next few months to slowly roll them out.
Okay. So we'll just have to watch out for that. We're running a search and replace process for it.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
So, but automated.
Yeah. It's not on you.
And
Phil.
he said that it will fix it. He also said
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, so if we use how CSD exists right now, so with csd.wisc.edu, you could do /wp admin in your login, you could, page about us, whatever, right? So pages you created while it was underneath, something, .wiscweb.wisc.edu, a lot of the links, as you pointed out, links to other pages, if you hard-coded them, for example, media, as you mentioned, was another one. Those are all right now. If I went and found a couple of pages on your site, undoubtedly I'm at csd.wisc.edu, and if I look at every request my browser made, there's a bunch of them to something.wiscweb, even just to load one of the pages with some of the images. So the find and replace is going to basically go through that and say, hey, if I saw, take an example, let's say it was csd.wiscweb.wisc.edu, any place I see that, which includes direct links, so hard-coded links, or links to media, those are going to get found and replaced with csd.wisc.edu, which is what the page should be. Right now what's happening when you make that request is that those should be getting a redirect to csd.wisc and the address. The change we're making is we're not gonna make you do redirects for that. So again, if your page has 20 things that it loads right now, including those redirects, now it might go down to 15 or 10 or something like that. It just means it's gonna solve the problem where it should be solved more permanently. And we're tying that in with what's gonna happen with the site's launch as well. Because you'll have the same problem with the new site that ends with WiscWeb for editing, and upon launch, there needs to be a find and replace in order to make sure.
Yeah.
With something that was .edu, for example.
So,
is where it's at.
to kind of to
Out of detail, sorry.
reiterate, to well, just to kind of not reiterate, but reinforce what Phil's saying. Part of this process is in the past you would access your site, you would edit your site in csd.wiscweb.wis.edu/wp-admin. Now you can actually get to your site. Nope, I'm just literally doing everything wrong.
Well, you could. That's what's going to disappear.
So you can actually get to your admin site by just going to URL/wp-admin, and that will log you into your same editing environment.
Once your site is.
Once your site has been launched. If it's still a .WiscWeb site, you'll still have to go through WiscWeb.wis.edu to log in there. But once you're launched, you have direct access to your whatever .wis.edu dashboard. You don't have to go to WiscWeb to log in from there.
For sites where the pre-launch site URL prefix is
Oops.
different from the launch site
Yes.
prefix, it's going to be a smart find and replace. It's not just going to remove.
Yeah, we have a script that Scott's running through that is going to do all of that, and then when we launch, that's part of our launching process is to go through and yeah.
I know the housing site still has something I found the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And this is why we have to run through this process. Is for some of our older sites, it just that stuff exists out there because of the way that our service was last year, or 2 years
There
ago.
could be thousands, like when we do
Yeah.
research someplace, sometimes there's thousands. Sometimes.
Yeah.
And for links that exist out in the world where somebody emailed the wrong URL or something like that, and you can't change it, you can't go and change it. People who click on those now will just go to a dead link after this changeover.
I would recommend putting a 404 error page up if you don't have one already that captures that to provide some more information to folks
Yeah.
that the
Or-
link has changed and that they should update their. We have recommendations, but like that could be customized to fit your needs,
Yeah.
your specific needs.
Like we have a silly one up there. Kelly has a very good one that's.
How can you change the address? Put in the right one?
Well,
If they have it.
ax.wiscweb.wisc.edu no longer exists, it's going to hit an error message unless there's a redirect. But
Yep.
if it doesn't exist,
There's no redirect in there. Yep. So this is what Kelly does for the Center for Limnology site, and she just basically just puts in information,
I love it.
Yep. So
So I want to go back to how I can log in. So this is new. I don't need to go to WiscWeb to log in and then log in.
Nope. You can now go straight to limnology.wis.edu/wp-admin.
And you have been able to for months.
Yes, you have.
One of many things that we probably didn't clearly articulate when we made the change for domain mapping is that that's one of the things that happens.
And will it ask me to log in?
It's still NetID. If you're already authenticated into something like email,
Okay.
you'll authenticate right in. But it's the same process. It's just that you don't have to come to WiscWeb.wisc to do it. You can just go to limnology.wis.edu to do it. That's it.
Because I did notice, I always had the login, WiscWeb login.
Yep.
Bookmark.
Yep.
And now that changed. Did y'all change that? Did you change your URL at all?
I don't think so.
Because now it doesn't go directly into the edit mode. It goes right back to the WiscWeb homepage. And then I have to go up here and click login, and then it'll go into the edit mode. For me to
I don't
pick
think
which
so.
site I want.
I think we'll have to look at that
Yeah.
on your computer. Maybe someone's caching it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if we know that if you're able to tell us exactly what the bookmark was before, then it'll say what changed.
Okay.
The simplest thing I would say is that in the event we don't have time to do that, just make a new bookmark
Totally.
for
Yeah.
your site name,
That's fine.
WP-admin.
I just wondered if maybe
Call
those
it
two
a day.
things were related.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I mean, it sounds
small update. We are going to be updating UW theme. That will be released on March 5th, approximately March 5th. March 5th is our current date, but time is fleeting. So that's what our anticipated date is. We'll communicate out in the future what those changes are going to be. We have a number of things in our sprint that we've been working on over the past month and a half. Some interesting things, some back end administrator type things that will help us out. But there are a couple of interesting things that are coming with the theme update, and a couple of other things that we're still pushing for. So we'll have some more information about that in a couple of weeks when we get closer to the actual theme update date. And then the last thing to touch on out of this agenda proper is we have added a new plugin to our service, and that is the, I don't think I have it listed on this page yet. I don't. It is in our knowledge base, which is the Google XML Sitemaps plugin. This is a plugin, quite frankly, specifically to address the need for better search engine optimization out of our service for your sites. So what Google XML Sitemaps does is it first and foremost creates an actual sitemap XML file that gets stored on the server. That sitemap, there are some options in there that you can set up. Quite frankly, I encourage you not to tinker too much with the options that are in here. But you can have that essentially pinging Google and Bing are the two primary ones about any changes that occur to your site to basically just encourage it to recrawl your site to capture and index those changes that you have made. But out of creating that out of creating that sitemap, you can then use that sitemap to have it be re-indexed through the Google Search Console, which in turn will hopefully increase any search results that you are hoping will be increased. But this is basically just a one way for us to try to address the fact that in the past we just haven't had a good option for SEO. The big one that's been asked about in the past is using Yoast SEO, which is a very large plugin that is specifically for increasing your site's search engine optimization. We've looked at Yoast SEO in the past. It is a beast of a plugin, and quite frankly, there are a lot of things in there that just are more than what we want to try to support. It's just too much for us to try and become experts or even, laymen in. So in this case, we just added this plugin because sitemaps are really one of the primary ways that Google indexes your site and also eventually leads to improved search results for you. So we have a number of sites, and a few of those folks are in this room now that have been testing it out for me. I don't know what that testing has meant other than I turned it on for your site, and it's been running for about a month now or so. Nothing has broken, so that's an encouragement to me. But I have the two knowledge base documents out there. The first one is just the initial setup of the plugin and what it will look like and how you will access it. And then the second one is how do you take that site map and actually apply it to your Google Search Console.
And then can you have a link in your footer for public view?
Yeah, you could. It's a live URL, so you could put it down there to link to it. You'll get the URL in the actual plugin. So it's right there. It's the sitemap. It's whatever your URL is /sitemap.xml, and in there is the actual values itself.
Adam says, XML sitemaps.
Thanks.
Raising the roof for us.
We'll have to revisit the login thing because I see what they're seeing now.
You do? Alrighty then. Okay, I will open it up to the floor. Any questions, comments, concerns, critiques?
Do you want to look at it?
What?
Open an incognito window.
I have an incognito window open.
Open a new, well,
I don't know.
Different browser.
open a different browser. Incognito.
All right.
So much fun.
Please hold, folks, whilst I.
You're not launching Edge.
Okay, hold on. No, because I have to add.
Oh.
Because I'm streaming and I don't have all this set up for this stuff, I have to. Da, 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 da. Okay. All right. There you go, folks. Get excited. Hopefully this will change over for
So
everybody
go
to
to
see.
WiscWeb, not WP admin.
People don't need to see my bookmarks. So go to WiscWeb.wis.edu.
Yeah. Click on login.
Up here.
Either one, I think.
Ooh, that's a fun
Okay.
Login.
Okay.
You're gonna have to do your duo.
The number of things I log into on a daily
I
basis.
know.
That's the number of things you want.
All right. And it redirected.
Yep, it's not logging in. Now click login.
Well, now it's working because it's slowed down to get into
No,
the
it didn't
admin.
work. It redirected you to the,
It processed your login and then kicked you back
and
to
then kicked
WiscWeb.
you back to WiscWeb,
Oh.
but it wasn't.
Well, this worked at least because it acknowledges that I.
But it should have.
But it should have
done
gone
that
into
right
the
away.
dashboard area.
Yeah.
Did that interesting Chrome update happen?
But this isn't Firefox.
No, I know. They're going to be making a very similar change.
Well, Firefox 73 came out, what, 2 days ago?
Let's find out, friends, about Firefox.
That 100 came out?
Yep, I'm in 73 right now. All right, well, noted.
Fun fact.
We're gonna have to figure that out. Once you log in and you get redirected back to the WiscWeb main page, if you just refresh the page, you'll see the bar up here at the top. Any questions from the floor?
Well, we all know that I'm getting ready to go to OpenLab.
We sure do.
So maybe some of you have had this happen. I have a gravity form.
Yeah.
And I have a section field.
Mm-hmm.
And I copied the gravity form, and because I'm adding a whole bunch of stuff to it, but we're going to keep this one live for a little while. But I didn't need that section break, so I took it out. And everything under it no longer shows in the form.
Even though it exists in the form.
It still,
Yep.
like, it still stays there, but if you
Yep.
preview it, or if you edit it to a page it doesn't show, if I leave the section in there, and I move something above the section, it will not show. And yet, none of these fields below section reference the section at all. I got nothing.
I got nothing either.
I don't know.
We gotta dig in.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Bummer because
We're gonna
this is
dig
a
in.
long
No, I know.
long form. I mean, I'm starting over from scratch because I got to get it done.
Yeah.
But, and here's the odd thing is, I also have 4 sections that say Assistant 1, Assistant 2, right? And there's just 2 or 3 little things on them. I can delete those and everything's fine. And
Yeah.
they are sections. Just like the one that says additional info. So I do not know.
Yes. I poked it a little bit, thought I figured it out. I didn't figure it out, so then because I was trying the whole move it around thing as well, and then delete it once I've moved it.
And the odd thing is, once I have duplicated this one, many times trying it. One time I duplicated it, deleted it, updated, previewed, everything was fine. I've only had that gotten to happen once or twice, and then every other time. So once, because right after I sent the email to the WP list, COP list, it worked. Dang it, I just sent that email. and then I can't get it to work
Does
again.
it have a lot of, so it has a lot of fields, right? Does it have a lot of conditional logic?
It has a fair amount of conditional logic. You know, yeah, because
Because
it's
I
a
think
longer
the
form.
more fields and the more conditional logic you add, the higher risk that, it just won't work.
That's a bummer, because I Googled the whole section, because unfortunately, knowledge base for gravity forms and WP tables kicks you out into the real world.
Yep.
Which I'm not a fan of,
Well, we just
just
It's
FYI.
really
we
hard
can't
to
we
maintain
can't be
that
experts on everything,
yeah.
Kelly.
But, I read nothing where this is a problem.
Yeah.
That,
That's
and
very
for my
Yeah.
other
specific.
four sections, it's not.
So
a
my other thought
problem.
was, is it a caching issue?
It could be. Check for the cache.
I don't know.
It's on Limnology, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
We'll clear it and then we'll look at it. in
Yeah,
Limnology.
we'll be poking at it in the open lab, which starts
Okay.
in 7 minutes.
Found a bug, I think, in the customer support form.
Did you now?
I saw on your plugin page the poster page duplicator, and I thought, that's cool, I want that. So I went there and it's not there.
It's in there.
That's
default.
That is default.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
has that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The duplicate this plugin, the duplicate page plugin is in there by default.
Yeah.
Yes, you're good there.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I thought this list should be off the
Okay.
That's good.
Oh,
Feedback noted. Will take. Not incorrect.
I can do it right now.
Actually, we should not make one of them default either. We should have a placeholder
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
top of it and just
What do
say,
you say?
please select from the. It's the plugin. It's the support form and it's the plugin activation request
Yeah.
choice.
Have it not default what?
Have it not default to
default.
one. It defaults to gravity
Oh,
forms as
okay.
the first choice.
Oh.
So we should have
You
it
want gravity
default
forms?
to please make a selection from below or something like
Yeah.
that, and then alphabetized.
and then for those of us who manage multiple sites, I wonder if the website URL required field can accept multiple URLs.
Yeah,
If
so
I
what we
wanna
could do
have a
for
batch.
that is more of a list. So we can add it where, if you scroll up. So the field he's talking about is website URL. We can add it so that there's like a little plus sign, and you'll have to click a plus sign to add more.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want the Google XML one on all of your sites,
Yeah,
without sending the form 10 times.
10
Multiple
times.
Yeah.
Please don't.
creating so many tickets.
I mean, it'll look good. It'll look good for our stats. I can close 10 tickets pretty quickly.
Which is why having tickets or closing them is not actually a sign of being productive.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a sign. It's a sign of being productive to someone.
You can have it in your work.
Any other questions? All right, we have the open lab happening next door in B207 at the comp sci room. So those of you who are going to brave the warmth to come over, thank you. We'll see you soon. Otherwise, I am going to cut the stream there, and we are going to end this so that I can get over there and open the room. So
Yeah, I think 1 o'clock.
thank you all for attending.
Anybody on your site blog?
Is the magical Alex person going to be at this open?